Welcome back. This past week marked a flurry of diplomatic engagements over in Cambodia as the Association of Southeast Asian Nations kicked off its 55th Foreign Ministers meeting and extend exchanges to include the broader Indo-Pacific region. Now, for more on the ASEAN's ties with South Korea, I have Professor Park Jang Sik at Kyungsung University live online. Professor Park, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Okay, my pleasure to see you.
I also have Professor Joeffrey Maddatu Calimag at Kyungsung University joining the session virtually from the Philippines. Professor Calimag, it's a pleasure as well.
Thank you for having me, Sung-hee. It's a pleasure.
Right. Professor Park, we'll start with you then. During his opening remarks at the South Korea-ASEAN Foreign Ministers meeting, Park Jin claimed that the ASEAN would be the center of the Yoon administration's Indo-Pacific initiative. First then, let's begin with a few words on the Yoon administration's Indo-Pacific initiative and its relevance, perhaps, to the ASEAN.
Yes, Minister Park Jin had a super busy schedules in Phnom Penh, Cambodia from August 4th to 5th. So he emphasized the importance of relation between Korea and ASEAN there. As we know, on May 23rd in Tokyo, U.S. President Biden held an official launch event for the Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity. It's the economic war, the IPEF, having 13 nations as partners: Korea, USA, Japan, India, and then Australia, New Zealand, and ASEAN 7 nations. In short, this can be said as a multilateral economic cooperation organization among trusted partners that arose a byproduct of the U.S.-China conflict, and it ensures a balanced link between economy and security in the Indo-Pacific region, specifically excluding China. Perhaps the Yoon administration's IPI can be viewed as a foreign policy to cope with this framework, because the U.S. is asking us for clear position. However, in the 7 ASEAN nations are participating in IPEF, naturally, it is also policy necessary to maintain close ties with ASEAN. I understand that IPI's specific strategy is currently being written in detail, including conception of WCOP, etc.
Right. Professor Calimag, what can you tell us, that is, about trade ties between South Korea and the ASEAN, and what do you propose, perhaps, to further boost them?
Oh, well, South Korea and ASEAN has relatively achieved its original goals based on its foundational proponents when they initiated economic ties through a framework agreement in 2005. ASEAN is South Korea's 2nd largest trading partner, and South Korea is ASEAN's 6th largest trading partner. However, more than 60% of ASEAN-Korea trade, amounting to $144 billion, were only shared by Vietnam and Singapore, similar with investments. Now, with the characteristics of ASEAN with a population of more than 650 million as a potential market, the 4th largest economy by 2030, a sustainable annual economic growth rate, a thriving factory base, and Korea as the 10th largest economy, I want to believe that there is a significant room of improvement where there are many areas to explore beyond Vietnam and Singapore, and especially with the aftermath and recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. I would recommend to just make ease of doing business be a priority, take advantage of ICT and big data, focus on high valued commodities, perhaps frequent negotiations, and incentivize more to accelerate trade. Korea has surpassed Japan in terms of trade volume with ASEAN. China, even with a mammoth 4 times bigger trade volume, faces some challenges as some ASEAN member states are cautious because of their disputes with China. So the momentum for Korea to increase its trade exponentially with ASEAN is in place, and this is a great opportunity for Korea.
Right, that is good to know. And Professor Park, beyond economy then, with regard to security, what are some of the common challenges that the two sides share, and what effort do you see as essential moving forward?
So it's a very difficult problem. So actually speaking, we are in a really tough and shaking place. There is strong demand from the United States to choose her side and eventually to abandon the attitude of seeing both sides, US and China, as co-partners. Also, as we may see, China threatens to break up our relations if we stand together with US. We all know that. So so a lot of profit in the trade with China, and then so we can't abandon easily the relations with China. So we must demand the equidistant supporters from ASEAN to ease tensions between two Koreas and do so in a way that does not harm the relations with China. So especially as far as the issues of the South China Sea are concerned, so we should review them very carefully. So the all areas of ASEAN do not concern with the South China Sea problems. So and then we do not draw the problem, the tension between two Koreas into ASEAN problems. So we do choose separately both problems equally.
Right.
Thank you.
Professor Calimag, cultural exchanges are also very vital components of economic exchanges. That being said, Professor Calimag, can South Korea make greater use of Hallyu perhaps to better engage its ASEAN counterparts?
Well, indeed, cultural exchanges are vital components of economic exchanges, as these open more opportunities and exploration. And the country has been enjoying the power of Hallyu in advancing its presence and influence globally, including the ASEAN region. And it is one product that plays both as a valuable export commodity and at the same time comes with cultural influences that assimilates other cultures to Korea and become part of it. You know, after a Gangnam Style phenomenon that reached an unprecedented milestone of 1 billion YouTube views in 2012, now about 10 billion combined, I was adamant to believe that K-pop would be able to sustain its popularity and another one would exist. Theoretically, understanding its dynamics using Korea's traditional export-oriented growth and diversification strategies, strong government support, top-notch creatives, and applying advanced technologies and innovation, Gangnam Style has proven to be just a door opening to more opportunities for Hallyu and Korean products ranging from online games, drama, electronics, food, beauty, medical, and so many others. And because of these, more ASEAN citizens are engaged with anything Korea, especially at the grassroots level. It is sustainable, and the impact on the economy would be tremendous as more and more are coming to Korea for tourism, education, training, work, and I know for the fact that many even considering staying long-term in Korea.
Right. And Professor Park then, aside from the agricultural, economic and security arenas, what are some other perhaps areas of mutual interest that South Korea and the ASEAN that is could work on together in the future?
Yes, actually there are so many fields of cooperation that I can't even count. The security issue has already been mentioned. So aside from that, although we are making a lot of profit from our trade with China, we have experienced that if security issues are concerned, that relationship can collapse at once, relentlessly from the third issue before. Therefore, the economic investment to ASEAN should be further accelerated more than now. From my point of view, I think there is no future without ASEAN. So we are working together as best friends.
Right.
And look at the ASEAN people who love Hallyu. They do really love our Korean culture and arts. But how do we understand them? We have to go further for tourism, for example, and invite them to Korea for work, study, or meeting. Also, we make an effort to get to know their lifestyle from our small concerns. That is a very important point of view.
Right, of course. Professor Calimag, beyond South Korea's talks with the ASEAN, other important topics last week were the war in Ukraine and, of course, the situation in Myanmar. Now, with regard to the latter, some pundits say the ASEAN and its partners need to do more to address the humanitarian crisis in Myanmar under its military junta. What are your thoughts on this, Professor?
Well, it is unfortunate that military junta in Myanmar resumed in 2021. I was hoping that the elections held there in 2010 would lead to the road to democracy and end the military rule that lasted for about 50 years from 1962 to 2011, but to no avail. I suggest that ASEAN should do more and find ways to uphold commitment to agreements. In fact, ASEAN has already a 5-point consensus to solve the Myanmar crisis, which Myanmar agreed to, but ceremoniously disregarded it. ASEAN may review and rethink its non-interference policy amidst the crisis. And apparently, ASEAN is weak on this aspect, as we could not find accountability on the actions of its members.
Right, unfortunately then. Meanwhile, moving forward, Professor Park, the ASEAN Regional Forum is perhaps the only multilateral security platform that North Korea attends. How can we perhaps seek to make better use of this forum to engage North Korea?
Yes, actually, the ALF is a really big organization, compromising, with the 10 ASEAN member countries, and I think 16 participating countries as dialogue partners. So therefore, we can discuss the security issues rising in East Asia, at least, in a multilateral relationship. And it can be a place where tensions within the region can be resolved. So since North Korea is also a member there, so there will be an opportunity to talk about tensions between two Koreas. But to be honest, it is difficult to say that this organization has been a great help in inter-Korean issues so far. So I guess the participation of North Korea depends upon the role of China. In that respect, absolutely, we need a wise dual relationship strategy that also considers our better relationship with China. What is the solution then? This is, of course, a task of politicians. In my opinion, we need a strategy to deal with economic and security issues separately. And it is a strategy based on give and take. So we do not emphasize that only the problem of tensions between two Koreas there.
Right. Professor Calimag, ASEAN members have also warned about the risks of miscalculation and perhaps potential confrontation among the world's major powers in light of U.S. House Representative Speaker Nancy Pelosi's trip to Taiwan. Do you share these concerns?
Yes, I do share the concern of ASEAN. The fact is that ASEAN's stand on the one China policy remains, and at the same time, ASEAN member countries remain silent about Speaker Nancy Pelosi's visit to Taiwan. ASEAN, known as a neutral region that wants to maintain as such, is put in a dilemma where they should not be at the burden in the first place. Every state involved in the China-Taiwan conflict must be responsible, so not to risk miscalculation and potential confrontation. I would rather be more skeptical in asking whether there are international laws and treaties being violated by the United States in visiting Taiwan. That being said, we may look into the details and compromise for the sake of stability and peace. We are faced with a lot of challenges, from health crisis, which is COVID-19 and monkeypox, to natural calamities, to war in Ukraine. And these already brought the world to its knees. And everyone agrees that we do not need another crisis with all these existing problems that we are dealing now. There should not be any provocation and threats, as these only escalate tension. And clearly, both the United States and China are testing its powers in the region. But if any, the good thing is that hegemonic tendencies of China in the region are pacified with the presence of the United States.
Meanwhile, Professor Park, as you mentioned earlier, Foreign Minister Park Jin's schedule over in Cambodia was hectic, to say the least. That being said, then, how do you evaluate his diplomatic endeavors thus far as South Korea seeks to play a greater role in the international arena?
Yes, he has spent a super busy schedule, I guess. So, you know, in August the 4th and 5th, he had a lot of official meetings with other foreign ministers from various countries. And frankly speaking, I'm so concerned about his health. I'm so worried about. So as we all know, diplomacy is not the work of a single minister, but it is undeniable that he's doing a great job. And then as soon as he got the position of the Minister of Foreign Affairs, he went around the world, you know, here and there. So East Hemisphere, the West Hemisphere, all around the earth. But just to say one thing, as mentioned before, I hope that now he would make creative ideas for better relations with ASEAN. So as you see the new certain policy of the last Moon administration, so the last administration also, last government also recognized ASEAN as very important partners for in the future. And also the Minister Park Jang came to think of ideas for better relations with ASEAN, bearing in mind that ASEAN is the only reason that we replace China in the future. So we don't believe that China will be our the forever partner, you know. As soon as the security problem occurs, the relation will be stopped. Will stop at once.
Right. And very briefly speaking, Professor Calimag, what are your words of advice as Korea seeks to expand its regional presence and participation in global affairs? I think we have about like 30 seconds.
Oh yeah, Korea has been leading initiatives from climate change to the products that they have global brands. South Korea is neutral and a friendly country. Its products and aid were welcomed anywhere in the world. However, controversial internal and domestic affairs with regards to non-locals' welfare and situations such as discrimination should be appropriately addressed so as not be spilled over borders. That way, Korea becomes a model, and the image of Korea as a partner would be maintained and developed.
Right. Thank you very much for those insightful words, Professor Calimag. And Professor Park, thank you very much for joining us live as well.
Thank you
very much. Bye.